What's up, everybody? Metal Dave here, along with my co-host Jason McMaster, bringing you another episode of the Talk Louder podcast. Today, we are joined by lifelong music journalist Katherine Turman. In a lot of ways, Katherine was an inspiration to me as a kid growing up. I used to see her name in Rip magazine. If you remember Rip magazine, it was definitely one of the better ones. Came along after Hit Parader, Circus, Metal Edge. Rip was a contender. It was, in my opinion, it was sort of the new gold standard when it finally came out. She was at the helm during the late 80s, early 90s. She was a staff editor, made her way all the way up to editor-in-chief during her tenure there. She's interviewed countless rock stars. She has spent the past 20 years working for Alice Cooper. She is the producer of Alice's radio show. It's now called Alice's Attic. It used to be called Nights with Alice Cooper. She is a producer on that show, works very closely with Alice Cooper. Lots of great stories today about her and Alice and their working relationship. She's also the co-author of a 2013 book called Louder Than Hell, The Definitive Oral History of Metal. And it came out in 2013. It's about 768 pages, features a bunch of interviews with all kinds of...
That's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work. She's a co-author with John Wiederhorn. John is also a well-known journalist in his own right. I think he wrote for Guitar Magazine, Revolver. I think he also spent some time at Rip Magazine. Yes. So both of these writers, very well established and lots of credentials, and therefore they've got a ton of interviews in this book, Louder Than Hell. And so her freelance credits include Rolling Stone, Spin, Esquire, Village Voice. She's been doing this for a very long time. She's very good at it, and it was really fun.
I've got stacks of those, butt rock magazines in storage, and I'm sure you do too.
Oh yeah.
And the handful of interviews that we did, probably circa 89 through probably 91, they're in there. So it would maybe once in person. She interviewed maybe Mark and Mike from the Toys, and then on the phone with me, and she grew up in Los Angeles area, so she knows everybody. She's interviewed everybody, and kind of an important figure when you just mention, the things that you've mentioned. And then to top it off with Louder Than Hell, which is this big hardback book, still available, certainly.
Yeah. I think there's even a paperback version of it.
Oh, good. Okay.
Now.
Yeah, Louder Than Hell. Everyone go get a copy of that. It's got all your favorite artists in there, all heavy metal folk in there. It's their words, unedited, pretty much unedited, over 700 pages. So that's good. But, you'll find that me and Dave periodically are egging Katherine on to write another one. And inadvertently, we're not really trying to give her ideas, but she seemed to be getting some ideas and inspired. So I feel good about that. And then we did talk about her article in Polestar, tribute to junkyard singer David Roach, our good buddy who has recently passed away, who will be sorely missed. And the article is heartfelt and incredible, and in my opinion, stronger than the Rolling Stone piece, the New York Times piece, etc., put together. So I know I'm creating some big words here, but I think
Katherine's well connected, growing up in Los Angeles, and she did a great job. Polestar.com, look up the tribute to David Roach. Yeah. Katherine wrote that. I should also mention she was also a producer on Rockline, for those of you that remember the syndicated radio talk show Rockline they used to.
That information is for people of a certain age.
Yeah,
if you've heard of Rockline, then that's going back a little bit. So
it's going back a little bit, but in my research today, I found out that it went off the air in 2014. So it it lasted for quite a while.
Yeah, and I think that the sort of digital version was, the not live version, the version that was just kind of put together in a room and then broadcast. Katherine was involved in that, producing that.
Yeah,
I don't think she was involved when it was live. So.
Oh, yeah. No. I mean, it started in 1981. I remember as a little kid listening to it. And the cool thing about Rockline, if you're old enough to remember, is they would bring rock bands into the studio and actually interview them on the air, and then they would allow callers to call in and ask questions. And that all seems very commonplace now, and in some ways it even seems antiquated. But back then, that was a big deal, because really the only place, you didn't have MTV, you didn't have YouTube, so the only place you heard interviews with bands was, you saw it in print in a magazine once a month or something like that. So to hear them speaking on air and taking questions and being interviewed by a host was really cool. So
and Katherine Turman working for Rockline, in a later version of it, and now producing Alice Cooper's radio show. Well, who do you think probably Rockline was interviewing in the mid 80s? Alice Cooper. Yeah. He was probably on Rockline back then. So it's probably full circle, and she's super cool, man.
Yeah. I as a journalist myself, I really respect and appreciate her career. She's been in print for decades. She's been in radio for decades. She's kind of done it all, and then even co-wrote a book. So that's a lot to be proud of.
Now she's to up the ante and make her even cooler. She works for Metal Blade Records now.
That's right. We didn't even get into that.
No,
she mentioned that.
She mentioned it, but it wasn't something that we dug in and, tell us what your day-to-day is working at Metal Blade. Probably working side by side with Tracy Vera, Joey Vera's wife, who's now the president of Metal Blade Records. So.
Yeah. Someone like Katherine, you get talking and you just, the stories start coming out, and there's no way you're going to cover all her accomplishments. She's done so much. So it was really great to have her. Great stories, great career. Katherine Turman today on the Talk Louder podcast.
How you been?
All right.
Excellent. I approve this recording. Oh, man. I've been pretty good. It's 100 degrees here, but it's a dry heat, as we say. So it's all right.
Yeah.
Same here.
I mean,
I feel like I know you ever since I bumped into you out in LA when I was there for my birthday, and I saw you at the Rainbow, and that was the first time we'd met. And I asked you about being on the show, and you said you'd do the show. And we've been exchanging messages ever since. And it was so weird once we started exchanging messages, how many things we have in common and how many people we know and mutual friends and that sort of thing. So, we haven't really had a long conversation, but I do feel like I already know you.
I know, it was so weird. I mean, Jimmy Asher said to me, he's like, I've got a friend in town and going to meet him. And then he said, he's a journalist. And I'm like, okay, who? And then, he told me a little about you and your friendship. And then I think a day or two later is when we met at that Rainbow, Michael Monroe, Black Oak, Arkansas, which is pretty much my dream bill, I have to tell you.
Yeah, that was a great weekend.
Really, I'm not kidding,
That was a great weekend. How did you meet Jimmy Ashurst?
Well, we have a long history, but it's very short also. So, I grew up in LA, so I remember Broken Homes from way back. Jimmy and I are the exact same age. And then we never seemed to hang out or meet or anything. I just knew who he was and the band was. And then literally less than 2 years ago, I got a direct message from him. And it's like, hey, if you're ever near the Sunset Strip, I'd like to buy you coffee. I'm like, all right, that's random. And then I messaged back. I'm like, why? And he kind of said, I'm thinking of doing a book and I want to talk to journalists who I respect. I'm like, oh, all right. So I think we were both just aware of each other literally for 30 years. And then we met up at El Compadre, and he told me hours of stories that blew my mind because they were so funny and so well told. And and I'm like, write your damn book. This sounds amazing. And I'd like to help him more, but he's pretty much like, I don't want to show anything to anyone. And so we don't really talk about it too much anymore, but I'm sure he's carrying on with it.
Yeah, I sure hope so. Because like you said, he's got a lot of credibility and a lot of great stories. He's been around forever. We had him on the show and it was just one story after another. And I've known him for many years. And so every time we catch up, I'm just like sitting there in awe the entire time. So.
Yes, he's like, and then I crashed my car, and then I went through the front door of this, and then I was at Air Studios, and then I'm like, what? Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
You know my co-host Jason, right? From Dangerous Toys days.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because it's wild that me and Dave have never spoken about. I can't remember if I can count them on one hand or two hands how many times you wrote about the toys, and we had interviews together for a couple of different publications.
Yeah, definitely at least one or two in person. I don't even remember when. I want to say
89.
Late 80s. Or exactly. And then, I started working with Alice Cooper, and I was aware of your connection, tribute to him.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we ever had you on the radio show, but we certainly played you on Nights with Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think I've seen you in the flesh in decades.
A long time. But
yes.
Admiration from afar. And I gotta say this, in the times that we interviewed, and it was, like I said, it was multiple times. If I would have known your closeness to like the Armored Saint guys, I probably would have been even more sort of in awe of just your Southern California being.
Oh my God. Well, I didn't know you were in any awe, but yeah, you know what?
You probably didn't know how, take this or leave it, how gay I am for Armored Saint.
He is.
You probably did not know that at the time that I met those guys, when they did the Ride the Lightning Metallica tour on the first, on the March of the Saint tour.
Oh my God.
February 21st, 1985.
Just approximate.
No, that's it. That's the date. I could tell you what time if you like. And I was introduced.
What were you wearing?
Yeah, they'll tell you what T-shirt.
I was wearing a homemade Metallica shirt that I painted with James on the cover and James on the front. And probably anyway, I was introduced to Bush from James, and anyway, it's a whole thing. But yeah, if the first time that we would have chatted, if I just would have had, wait a minute, the Armored Saint guys?
He would have started interviewing you.
Well, what's so weird is I didn't interview them till, oh my God, what was maybe their first Chrysalis album? They were in the studio with Dave Jordan.
March. Yeah, March. Oh, that's, they were all Chrysalis till they weren't. That was their last Chrysalis record, was with Dave Jordan, The Symbol of Salvation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. And then, at some point I became pretty good friends with Bush. I mean, like going to his house, going to movies, hanging out. We were good friends. And then, I don't remember what happened. We weren't hanging out quite as much. I got to know Joey pretty well.
Yeah.
Then I moved to New York, but whenever they came through, I'd go out with them when they were in town. Yeah. And then I, of course, got to know the wives. And now I work with Joey's wife at Metal Blade. I work with Tracy Vera at Metal Blade.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Bush is such an amazing guy, and actually, when I don't remember the first time you filled in for him, but I was like, wait, even though I love Armored Saint, I kind of love to see them with you.
That was lightning struck twice. I had to do that a couple times, and as much as it was an icky feeling, because I'm a fan. When I go see Armored Saint, I don't want to see this. I want to see Bush, So I was too I was too inside of it, too close to it by that, or however you want to say it, imposter syndrome.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And then those guys were like, dude, you need to get off that and just go have fun. And they were right. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you were chosen. I'm sure you were their first choice and only choice. So,
That's what they said, and that still
yes.
makes me
worked out so well they had him back twice. There you go.
well, anyway, now we get to interview you.
Yeah, let's talk about you, Katherine.
No.
Yeah. So let's start from the present. You've spent the last 20 years working with Alice Cooper, and you, as I understand it, you're the producer of his radio show, now called Alice's Attic, formerly called Nights with Alice Cooper or something like that. It was rebranded recently. Is that right?
Yeah, that's 99.9% correct.
Okay.
So yes, I'm an LA native. I moved to New York in 2006 to be the producer of his show, and it was syndicated by a company called United Stations. So Alice, it wasn't like Alice paid me. We both worked for this big syndication company who did House of Hair and Ricky Rackman's Racing Rocks and a bunch of other things. And great run, great time. We had video studios there. We just had so many people in, and Alice is amazing to work with. And then after COVID, everything took a nosedive. People didn't really understand that, terrestrial AM, FM radio took a hit because of the advertising. That's what pays everything. And if you're syndicated, you're on local stations in Texas, and your advertisers are, Jason's Pizza or whatever, and everything fell apart. And so yeah, they canceled the show. Well, actually, basically, the company was sold, went under, and so I was unemployed, laid off, and then I got my metal blade job. But then within about 8 months, a new syndication company came in and said, "We want Alice. Let's rename the show." And then now there is no producer, so I am a writer. There are 2 writers, so we're doing less, and we're not doing, we're not having interviews. We're not having people on the air. There's no video studio, so I'm not having people come in live or anything. It's, it's still kind of the same show, and everyone wants Alice anyway, so it doesn't matter if I bring in Tom Kiefer, they want Alice. So, so I'm a writer on the show. It's 5 hours a night, 5 nights a week, so which is why it's scripted, because Alice doesn't know, what happened on August 22nd, 1978. So we have to, fill in everything. And then he just riffs around it and does his own thing. But he needs the outline of who, what, where, when.
Well, he's already such a great storyteller. I would imagine just giving him putting some chum in the water for him to nibble at is probably awesome.
Exactly it. I mean, I would write, if it was The Who, I'd write Keith Moon pool, and then he'd go into the Keith Moon car pool, whatever. He would just go on. I know he has stories with literally, I think, everyone, people I wouldn't expect. All of a sudden he's popping out with an Eddie Vedder story. I'm like, what? Yeah. So yeah, he's just amazing to work with.
So you've been working with Alice roughly 20 years now. How did you initially, I'm going to use the wrong terminology here, but help me out. How did you apply for that job, or how did you interview for that job? I'm guessing Alice wasn't in the room when you walked, or was he? I don't know. How do you get a job like that? How do you sell yourself and get a job like that?
Yeah. I hate to tell you, it came to me. What happened was, I know you probably will talk about Rip magazine at some point, but I worked at Rip magazine till almost the end, which was around 1995. They lasted another year or so, but I was laid off. And then I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? And someone I'd worked with at Larry Flint Publications, who owned Rip magazine and Hustler and Barely Legal and maybe not Jugs, but other questionable things.
Many.
So someone I'd worked with had gone into a syndicated radio show called Rockline. And he's like, oh, we need an associate producer. It's kind of what you do now, research bands and write some stuff and deal with managers and publicists. I'm like, I'm in. So I took a job at Rockline, and they had another show called Modern Rock Live. And that was my first radio job, and that lasted like 6 years. And then eventually my boss, the producer, moved on, and I became producer. And And of course, we had everyone on. It was classic rock. Then we started an active rock, so we had Linkin Park and all that ilk on. But, you know, on the classic rock side, it was Alice Cooper, Eddie Money, Ted Nugent. You know, we had everyone on. And Alice had been on several times. And at that point, he had a personal assistant named Brian, who passed away a while ago. But he'd always, even if Alice was remote, you know, in another studio, his assistant was always in there, like, you know, making sure everything was cool. So I got to know him well, and Alice's day-to-day manager, Toby Mamus.
I remember Brian.
And, you know, that
Brian was around all the time when we toured with Alice. And
Brian Nelson.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brian Nelson was he was a super fan who Alice pretty much, you know, plucked from obscurity to work with him, you know. I think Brian was like, Alice, I'll do anything. I know everything about you. And Alice is like, come work for me. And
wow.
So that stuff does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what happened to you. It's like one connection leads to another, and then.
Exactly. So, yeah, so I was, and then, you know, after, I ultimately left Rockline. That also, you know, just all the radio murders and we were sold and all that stuff. So I left, and I did a few other things in writing and television, weirdly, which also came through Rockline. And then a couple years after Rockline, I got a message from someone at United Stations. Oh, we understand you produced Rockline, and we're going to start a show with Alice. Are you interested? And I said, no.
Really?
Alice, what a jerk. No, because here's what they said. They said, you know, Alice is based in Arizona, so you'd move to Arizona. I'm like, and that's why I said no. I'm like, oh God, I don't know. But then coincidentally, the associate producer on Rockline was based in Arizona. And so I said, hey, you should use our associate producer. He got the job. And then he left 2 years later and came to me and said, do you want it? They'll move you to New York this time. I'm like, Arizona, New York? I'm like, I'll take New York. And that was how it happened. And then that guy still is on the show. All the three original guys who began with the show, myself, Dave Bianchi, who was also on Rockline with me, and then a guy named Eric is in Arizona. He's the engineer, and when Alice is home, he records him. So all three of us have been with the show basically since the start, which tells you how awesome Alice is, how awesome the job is. So
yeah,
wow.
Yeah. And says something about the three of you as well. I mean, if you weren't doing a great job, he wouldn't keep you around so long. So how much, you know, here's the fanboy question. How much personal interaction do you have with Alice? You know, you're writing scripts basically, or outlines is probably the more appropriate word for his show. Do you consult with him about that sort of thing, or do you work basically on your own and then you just hand him what you've got? Or, you know, is there any back and forth collaboration, or does he just basically show up and take what you've got and riff off it?
Yes, the latter. I mean, in the very early days, you know, he tours extensively, first of all. So, I mean, it's impossible to communicate if he's in Australia and I'm here. And also Alice is very much not a Luddite. He doesn't have email and he doesn't have a cell phone. So truly. So
I'm envious.
I know he's calling because my phone says Cheryl Cooper. So, so everything comes through Cheryl, and even if I email Cheryl if I need something, you know, if it's something one-on-one personal versus management, where I go for a bigger question. So in the early days, I would be on the tracking sessions with him, and we'd talk, and I'd have to produce him, retake that, or, mention that story, or, you said he has a few things he always pronounces wrong. So
like,
and now it's charming. Well, he's a big fan of Eric Burden and the Animals, yet it's always Eric Burton. I'm a big fan of Bob Geldof and the Boomtown Rats, yet it's always Bob Geldorf. So,
okay,
I did that for the first year or two, and then I gave up, and so he carries on with his pronunciations, which is kind of charming. And
I was gonna say he's Alice. He can say it however he wants.
Yeah,
exactly.
As long as he's saying it right, everyone knows who he's talking about. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
It's kind of
now
adorable. You're not wrong. It's adorable.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And he has, I guess even though he grew up in Arizona, he's from Detroit, and I guess there's some words and things he says that kind of sound Detroitish, and people write in emails about it. I don't necessarily hear it. Well, like humanary stew. I mean, I guess he drops the H. It's human beings, humanary stew. It's kind of that.
Yeah.
But yes, it's him. So that's how you know it's him. If it's wrong, it's him.
If you bring up an interesting point, he tours a lot. So what are the, without getting into the boring mechanics of it all, but so if he goes on tour for 2 months or something like that, does he record a bunch of these shows and have them in the can ready to go out at a specific time, or how does that work?
Well, I mean, obviously we pretend that it's live and it's in your city because it's syndicated. And I think we do a good job because I'll get an email from Yucaipa, California, and they're like, I can't believe you're down the street. I'm going to come
to the studio.
But no, he records from the road. Right now, where is he? I think he's in the States right now. And his bass player, who's been with him forever, this guy named Chuck Garrick,
Yeah,
he records him. And so whenever they have time, literally, it's in the green room, in the hotel on the day off. So we basically email the scripts to Chuck. He puts, the headset and mic on Alice, turns on, I guess, I'm thinking Pro Tools. I haven't checked in with him in a while, and voice tracks everything. And it takes about 45 minutes for 5 hours. And so he can, he'll, on the script, on the notes, it'll be up next is The Doors and Soul Kitchen. And so tell a story, and so he can do it super quickly. And then, the tracks are uploaded and we plug in the music and the ads, and
that's amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize
really
this is how all of these syndicated shows are done.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Yes, it's funny. I'm friends with a few people like Matt Pinfield, and sometimes he's live and sometimes he's not. I can't tell the difference, which is hopefully how it is with Alice.
Matt's one of those guys that has also made this huge career out of doing that stuff.
Yes.
There's radio stations here that are local, and I know some of the guys, and they work from home. They're just putting shows together in their little studios in the back of their house. They get to hang with the kids and hang out and eat breakfast in their slippers and and just live normal lives, and then turn on the microphone and they're a rock and roll DJ. It's awesome.
You mean they're not in a professional studio like you're in right now?
No.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
they're in one like you're in right now.
Oh yeah. I'm in my cat's on the bed and my teddy bears are behind me, so I'm very
well. This is me and Dave's version of our teddy bears. It's the same.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's the same landfill that we're going to have forever.
Yeah, that's so funny.
The thing that I find interesting about Alice is, I'm aware that people do radio shows, from home and in their garage and down in the basement. But the fact that he's touring, I mean, he's traveling. So tomorrow it's another setup. The next day it's another setup.
Yes.
A week from now, there's some kind of malfunction you got to work around, or what? You know what I mean? He's on the move.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, and once in a while, even though we're in this great technological era, still internet goes down. He's on a cruise where you have terrible or expensive internet. Things happen. But when I'm writing, I have to do a script today. I'm working on September 1st. So I do a lot of, This Day in Rock, and it's the 1st, and I just came from, Waukegan. So, it's contemporary. Every day it sounds like the day. I hope.
That's impressive. That sounds like a hell of a lot of work for a guy who's already performing and traveling and touring and living out of a suitcase, and he's got to block out and probably doing the odd phoner here and there, interviews and whatnot. That's a lot to add to your schedule on a regular basis.
And golfing every day.
And golfing, yeah.
Well, he's probably doing golfing before anything else. That's probably how he finds That's probably how he finds his center is golf. And the
Yes.
fact that he's doing a 5-hour show, that he's doing the snippets for what would turns into a 5-hour show in 45 minutes. That's the impressive part. That he can whip out the stories that pertain to the material, to the track listing in that amount of time. You know, I bet him and Chuck have that shit down.
They do. They
Yeah.
totally do. And, well, I also have to say, Jason, for you as a singer, I mean, sometimes he's doing shows before or after his own concerts. And sometimes you can hear it in his voice. And once in a great while, he will need rest and we'll do some reruns or something.
Yeah. Wow.
But I mean, I know a lot of singers have to do vocal rest or whatever they need, but Alice rarely does.
Yeah. That's impressive. That just blew
He's
my
77.
mind.
Yeah. I think he's 77.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree.
So out of your time, I want to kind of, out of your time at Rockline and with Alice, and I know you said the more recent Alice, you don't have the in-studio guests or whatever, but when you were working at Rockline and then in the earlier days with Alice, was there ever a guest that was memorable for either a good reason or a bad reason or a funny reason, or who stands out in your career between, say, Rockline and Alice Cooper?
That's so funny. There's so many of them. I mean, let me think. Well, with Alice, most of the time, unfortunately, it was, I guess, Zoom or phone or whatever, just because it's so hard to get to rock stars in the same place. I think one of the funniest ones, he had two funny ones that I booked for him that were just, he was kind of blown away. One was Jerry Lee Lewis, and he was just, I mean, a legend, but also kind of out of his mind. Mm-hmm. And the other one that both of us found so wacky and weird is Question Mark from Question Mark and the Mysterians. He might be a Texas guy, who had the hit 96 Tears.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And Alice is a garage rock fanatic. And so we got this guy on and he was talking about Mars and his dogs. And Alice called me after the interview. He's like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever done. I'm like, cool. I mean, great. And then, so those were just kind of funny for him. And I mean, I don't want to let you too much behind the curtain, but I will blow your mind maybe even more. A lot of times I couldn't schedule Alice, so I would do interviews pretending to be Alice, which,
wow.
Yes. And a lot of people found that hard to play that game,
wow.
Like I'd be like, oh, my wife Cheryl says hi, and I golfed this morning and it was great. And then if you were, I'd be like, oh, yeah, remember the last time we played with you, Jason? We did that great gig. And then, you'd have to talk to me like I was Alice, but half the time people forget. So that was a very funny thing. And when I did it in person, I have an Alice mask. That sounds horrifying. I know it sounds creepy, but I don't know if it's around here, but at one of his concerts, they made like I think it was for Halloween, a mask on a stick, and the audience were all holding it. And,
that's awesome.
And so I had a few of those. So when I remember, I think I did that with Sebastian Bach in person. So I'm holding the mask and stuff, and he's like, "Wait, he's got like, you've got bigger boobs than Alice." I'm like, "Awesome, thank you." Like, just call me Alice. Let's not talk about that.
Right.
Yeah, there were some so those always were funny. Those were always weird.
So I have to imagine then you've got one hell of an Alice Cooper impersonation. Let's hear you say something. Say hi to Jason as Alice Cooper and say, hey, I really like that song Scared in your best Alice Cooper voice.
Well, I do more of a pretending to be knowledgeable than a voice, but I'd be like,
right.
Hey, remember I saw you at the airport in Newark. I was after that festival, and we play you on the radio show all the time, Jason.
Yeah, that's pretty much his.
I can't do his voice.
That's his phrasing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never really tried an impression, but I definitely talk a lot about. I'm like, Oh, in high school, Dennis Dunaway and I, we were so close and we were both on the school paper. And,
Yeah.
so I just try to drop in tidbits about his life to make it. Yeah, it's so funny because Alex, as you know, used to and still does sometimes refer to himself in the third person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, what? What?
Well,
I'm the fourth person. What's happening?
First off, to be clear, you're interviewing people for Alice's show, and then Alice is on tour recording what you said, so you can fly it in and mix it. Right.
Yes, please, yes. I mean, this is going to be horrifying to any fans who listen. But yeah, so I would do the interview. I'd transcribe the questions,
I love
answers, and then I'd write in.
Hey man, they're going to be forgiving, knowing how busy the man is. They're going to understand. They're fans. They get it.
Thank you. I hope so.
Oh,
I mean, but it would be like you having your kid do your interviews for you, sort of.
Sure.
I mean, it's.
Well, and then the other thing I was going to say is, Alice Cooper, you were talking about weird interviews via David's question. It's like this. It's like Alice Cooper thinks someone else is scary and weird. Alice Cooper is calling that's the weirdest. I mean, I'm Alice Cooper. Oh my God, that was the weirdest thing I've ever done. It's like, wait, what? You're Alice Cooper, and that was weird. That's pretty
Exactly.
cool. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah, it's no. I mean, I can't believe I've had these jobs. I mean, it's been amazing. And for Rockline, I was never. We had a host named Bob Coburn, who was a well-known radio guy out here. And so, I was never on the air for that. But, I dealt with all the bands and it was fun. A lot of them did come in person. And so we always had wine and beer and a lot of them would smoke pot with Bob Coburn. Bob is no longer with us. So rest in peace. And he wouldn't mind me saying that, I'm sure. You walk into the kitchen and he's getting high with JY from Styx,
Wow, yeah. I used to listen to that show all the time, man.
So did I. Yeah. So did I. Absolutely. At the time, for guys like our age, it was one of the first of its kind as far as, nowadays we have YouTube and then later we had MTV. But if you wanted to hear an interview with a rock star and actually hear the person's voice and hear some like real-time interaction, Rockline was the first that I can remember where something like that was available to you. And I remember tuning in all the time.
Proto podcasting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know what? The best thing and worst thing, the worst thing for me is that it was a live show. I mean, if you're like looking at your watch, we go on air in 6 minutes. Where's the guest? So that. And then also, I don't know if you remember or you did it, but you could call in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, a phone screener in there. What's your question for Alice Cooper? And, and so that was, it's so exciting for the fans and the artists.
Oh, yeah.
And we also have live playing in the studio. I'm standing there. I remember I was standing there with Henry Rollins and we're watching Rob Halford sing. I'm like,
wow.
I can't believe this is, it was for 2 or whatever. It wasn't Judas Priest related at that point, but my God, it was.
That's incredible.
Really, I know.
Yeah,
it was.
I remember listening to Rockline like in the early 80s or so. And because I was that nerd that read all the magazines, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But just like Jason, we read all the hit paraders, all the circus, bought the posters, had all the albums, but you never could hear a rock star being interviewed and actually hear their voice. There were very few mediums for it, and Rockline stood out and then like you said, you could call in and actually, if you got lucky, you'd get to ask a question. That was crazy. It was really cool.
Yeah, and we also had live performances. We had a full studio in our second studio. We had a drum isolation booth, and I'd sit there while Steve Vai is sound checking or something, and I'm like, oh my God,
that's amazing.
Yeah. It was great. It was really great.
So I got to ask you about Rip Magazine because obviously it's a big part of your career. But so when I was a kid, again, I grew up on Cream Magazine, Hit Parader, Circus, and then later on there was Metal Edge, and where you could find it, there was Kerrang. But when Rip came out, I remember thinking, and as the years went by and I got a little wiser, I started to recognize like good writing versus like a regurgitated press release
Or a good interview. Because the writing could be great and the interview could be shit.
Right.
Like,
or I could recognize a photo where the band members weren't ID'd correctly or something like that. So I could pinpoint inaccuracies. So when Rip came along, it was, in my mind, it was an upgrade of the biggest kind. It was full color glossy. The writing, there was a lot of credibility involved. And I know that Rip had some pretty exclusive access because it came out at a time when Guns N' Roses was blowing up, and they almost had carte blanche with Guns N' Roses as far. I remember Guns N' Roses had their own photographer. Robert John was the only guy that could publish his photos in the magazine. And Del James had a column, and there was just all kinds of credibility with Rip, and it looked good, and the writing was good, and they had access to really cool artists, and they were getting the real good stuff. And I always appreciated Rip. And I remember seeing your name in there. And as an aspiring music journalist myself, I was always not only reading the articles, but I'm paying attention to the bylines, and I'm reading the masthead. And if you want to be a writer, you start looking at the masthead, because the writers that aren't on the masthead are basically getting paid by the article, but the people that are on the masthead are on staff, and they're like a regular, they're part of the crew. And Catherine's name was in there. And so I was always sort of inspired by you and somewhat envious, because it was like,
wow.
Yeah, that's why when I got to meet you, it was like, finally, I mean, 16-year-old me is like, God, I remember seeing your name and going, I want to be that person. And so,
wow, that makes me so happy. And I love that, a lot of people don't even know what a masthead is, or don't know everything. I mean, now we're old and we know all this, but I mean, it makes me so happy that you were someone who paid attention. I know a lot of people did, but a lot of people, just wanted the pinups for their bedroom walls.
Well, sure, that's most people are fans, and they want to read about the bands, and then they toss it aside and wait for next month's issue. But someone like me, to me, reading the magazine was the same as reading an album cover. I'm going to read the liner notes. I'm going to find out who the producer is, all that stuff. What guy plays what guitars and all this stuff.
But who took the photo? Who wrote the article?
That's how I knew the name Robert John. Who knows Robert John?
I do.
Me.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah, you do, because you're in the business.
I've met him a few times. He was very, very nice to me. Here's something that I wanted to bring up is, how many times do you hear? Probably, I mean, I'm just going to guess, not to throw dirt on it, but how many times, as just like David said, how many times have you talked to someone that said, "Dude, you were an influence. You made a difference in my life on what I wanted to do as a profession"? Is that something that's...
Well, I would say not as many times as it happens to you. So I would ask, you,
okay,
like,
that's more times than it happens to me. I can tell you that for sure.
You got me. All right.
But I mean, you're, as a frontman, as a singer, I won't say that's what it's expected, but people are like, I love your voice, I love your, whatever, and that's, but I'm sure it never becomes old for you. I would hope it, like it doesn't for Alice, and I would presume it doesn't for you.
Well, it becomes the ingredients of importance to you, that something you did made someone else light up. It's really simple to make someone's fucking day. And if it's something that you have done just by doing your job that you love to do, I love to create, I love to write songs, I love, but this can be, and a lot of people don't like to hear this can be your job, and it is your job to do the things that you've been doing. And here's someone like Dave who's like, oh my God, I like literally having like this, like, zippity doo dah thing, happen like by going, oh my God. And you're just a person doing their job, right? So Yes, the way that that makes you
Yes.
feel, of course. And I guess that was a really good example to go, well, Jason, dumbass, you know how it feels.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing. Obviously, you're a front-facing person. I mean, what I do, I'm hopefully
I get it.
elevating other people,
Yeah.
exposing, I was going to say, exposing other people. So
Yeah.
I guess I don't expect it, but when it happens, I am really excited and honored. And especially if it happens, like you're telling me, David, it happened. I mean, I guess it happens a few times a year now, and it'll be someone from like, I met you at the Foundations Forum in '98, and you were really nice to me and gave me encouragement. And here's a photo we took, and I'm like, oh my God! And that, I mean,
Sure.
it makes my day. It really, I mean, I can almost tear up now. So I love that. And when I've given young writers a chance as an editor, that still comes back to me once in a while. Or people that I'm still in touch with, they'll reference it. They're like, I remember when I first met you at the coconut teaser and told you I wanted to write, and then I came to the office. I'm like, really? I don't know. But I'm, if someone's, that passionate and seems to be a good egg, I'm happy to do what I can. And I hope other people do that for me, and which of course is not always the case, as you know.
Well, and some of the things that you've told us today that David's questioning, he's the real journalist here. I'm Beavis and he's Butthead, so he does most of the talking. I'm Garth. He's Wayne. I'm Garth. He's Wayne. It's perfect. So, the things that he's asking you.
I'm not worthy.
About all of this, what we're talking about right now to pinpoint is, it's just entertainment. But if entertainment changes lives, if it makes someone smile and have a good day, so whether you're in, center stage or in the back room, just writing up the scripting and writing and putting together, doing your job, to me, it's all, it ends up being all the same. So, and I just think that it's pretty awesome.
I think we're all doing it at some level. We're all doing something that we never gave up on. It's probably a bug that bit us when we were teenagers and fell in love with music. And one way or another, like, I don't make my living doing music journalism, but I still do my freelance gigs. They don't pay the mortgage, but I just refuse to let it not be part of my life, because I'm that passionate and energized about telling someone else about a band or a person or a musician or something that I like,
Well, she might think that this is interesting, that a lot of people just even like on a local level and maybe even somewhat national, they know who you are and they refer to you often, I would like to think, as someone that, like, because Dave writes bios for bands. I've stolen some of his things to use for lyrics. He's pretty. Yeah,
wow.
It's true. So
that would be a huge honor for me if that happened. So congratulations.
Do you even know if someone's like, maybe you said a cool phrase in an interview about a band and they go, oh, that's a good song title. Would they have even confessed that to you? I wonder.
Oh.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah.
So I mean, you were at RIP, and I considered RIP to be the new gold standard of music magazines for fans and for journalists and photographers. And I think all the bands wanted to be in it too, because they recognized all those things. So was there, and you were on staff as an editor, and eventually you became editor in chief, which is, you're pretty high up on the masthead at that point. So during your tenure at RIP, again, kind of going back to a previous question, was there ever a memorable cover story or a memorable interview or something that went south that, or someone that surprised you? Tell me about something from your RIP days.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, at one point I shared an office with Del James, and yeah, the Guns N' Roses access, you're right, was absolutely incredible. Um, wow. Well, a lot of times, keep in mind, even as an editor, I didn't do all the cover stories. If you're doing a cover story, it's the writer and the band, so I'm not privy to a lot of it.
Right.
So I think like what I used to love to do, which I don't know if it happens much anymore, is to go on the road with bands, tour bus access and all that stuff. I really only did it 3 or 4 times, I think. And I think my most memorable one was probably with Typo Negative, mostly because, Peter Steele is such a God, hard to say was. Peter Steele was such a giant of a person and so funny and so dry and intimidating. And, as a woman on the tour bus, I'm usually the only woman. So I'm just trying, I kind of, it's funny. I told someone once I try to be one of the boys. And then like a feminist person is like, why would you do that? You're a woman. I'm like, oh, okay. But anyway, that was my approach. But then I remember I was in the front of the bus and Peter Steele was in the back in like tiny black underwear, like working out. I'm like, okay, is he doing this for me or not? But then the funny part was, I was hanging out with the whole band. I think we were sitting on the steps of the bus. And then Peter said, now can I interview you? I'm like, oh my God. And that was the first time anyone had asked that. And I'm like, of course, I guess I have to, turns out it's fair play or whatever they say. And,
Right.
and, the whole band's around and I'm like, oh my God, the tables are turned. This is what it feels like. But they were questions I would never ask. Like, what color underwear are you wearing? They asked me that. So I think they needed some help, but it was still pretty interesting to be on that side of things. And then, to be fair, I published it. I published their interview with me as well.
Wow! Oh, wow!
Even though the questions were kind of, there were a lot of very personal, probing questions, and I answered most of them honestly. So that was kind of
no one can say that you're not a good sport.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it just can't.
I mean, Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm easygoing and I want everyone to be comfortable and have fun. I mean, that was the thing. And demystify the process, I guess.
Yeah. I've always thought that, I came along as a journalist, I came along about a decade too late because I watched that movie Almost Famous, and like you said, there was a time when the journalists actually got on the bus and spent a month or 3 weeks out on the road with the band, stayed in the hotel, went drinking at the bar, sat at sound check, everything. You had like full on access, and it's dwindled and dwindled and dwindled over the years to what now you're lucky to get a 20-minute phoner with somebody, and that's fine. It is what it is. But as someone who is a total nerd for all that stuff, I would have loved to have been around at a time when that was more the norm than certainly than it is today. I don't know if it was even the norm, but it was more likely to happen back then.
Yes. Well, I mean, let me ask you this, Dave. So if you have that kind of access, and obviously you're friends with Jimmy Ashurst, you're friends with Jason and other people, I'm sure. Sometimes they tell you things that are unflattering or illegal or whatever, and you have to use your discretion not to print it, know? But if we were, I almost said real journalists, but I mean, if you're with the New York Times, nothing's off the record and you might want to dig in and get that scoop and publish that, potentially damaging thing.
It does present another level of challenges, especially if you have any ethics, so that can be a problem. I'd like to think certainly with someone like Jason or Jimmy or someone that I've gotten to know personally over the years, if we sit down we understand when we're sitting down for the purpose of doing an interview, and then that's when we have the exchange that ends up in print or on video or whatever. And then we
Yeah.
turn off all the cameras in the tape recorder and we start talking shit about somebody, you know. And I'm not going to turn around and put that in my article because it's understood
Right.
it's off the record. And I want to maintain that respect because I want to be able to come back for another interview some other time. So there is a fine line. It's not so fine, actually, you know. It's just respecting boundaries and having some decency and ethics and knowing when the person is speaking to the audience and when the person is speaking to you as a personal friend, and those are two different things.
Yeah,
we've had a few people, they'll ask, "Are the cameras on? You know, are you recording this?" And then we'll say, "No, we're done," but or I can pause it or whatever, and then they'll text or email us and say, "Hey, that one part where I don't really think that's right because I don't want to da 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 da," and respectfully, we go back, and even though we don't feel they said or remember it as to be as bad as they thought it was, we try to take it out. I mean, we kind of don't do that. I mean, we
mostly don't.
We don't because we don't have to. Because we don't have to. But it has happened, less than 3 times, probably in like 4.5 years.
Right.
But when there's and then this is interesting. And then notice I'm leaving all the names out. There's only,
I
like
can't
I said,
even
there's
remember
only a few.
those times.
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
There'll be something that one of our interviewees said about someone that we know personally who's also in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I will email Dave and our producer Jared and say, "Look, I don't really like it when so-and-so said that about my homie so-and-so, and I think that we ought to cut that."
Right.
And then it's either been Dave or Jared saying, "We're going to leave it." And I'm like, argue. We're going to leave it because, dude, I'm being sensitive because I'm sensitive. So it just turns into, you can't be, your ethics have to be strong, your strength. They have to be, that's your in guts talking to you, So if something gets bothered, if that gets it turns into a wreck inside and you have to be talked out of a tree. That's happened a couple of times as we started doing this show. Has anything ever happened like that to you or where it's been kind of like a sticky situation and where you've kind of had to be like, "Hey man, I'm not going to print," or like you had to call a meeting and say, "Hey, we shouldn't print these 2 little sentences right here. Let's pull those." Has that ever happened?
That's so interesting. Now, once in a while, probably again, I've been at this a long time, so less than 10 times in my career, maybe less than 6.
Wow.
I will get a call from a publicist and they will like, "Oh, so-and-so told you about this and we prefer you didn't print that." And then I'll be, all right. And then once in a great while, the person themselves will call back and say, "You know how I said that? Let's not." And I honor those. I
think that's professional.
Yeah.
I think
I don't think it was ever anything like, I did heroin for 10 years. And I don't know. I don't think it was ever anything really like personally breaking or career breaking. But, and occasionally Alice might make a joke, about something or someone. And then he'd be like, "Don't put that on the air." I'm like, "No, we won't." And we write jokes in for him. And so he's like, "No, I'm not going to make fun of Billy Squire."
But it's an interesting thing. And I think that in my experience in this sort of like gray area we're talking about, it has been, I'm just being straight. It has been something that bothered me and other people in the room, so to say, would be like, "What are you talking about? That's fine. That's not that big of a deal." And I'll be like, "Oh man, that was really uncool." And then I have to get over it. And it's just, your sensitivities when you're interviewing someone and they say something about your mom that you don't like, you know. It wasn't
Yeah.
about my mom, but you can see how it would.
Right.
Yeah.
There comes a time, especially, you know, like this whole conversation got started when we were talking more about the subject being someone we're acquainted with, or even a personal friend. And sometimes on the show, one of the trademarks of this show that we actually are pretty proud of is people get so comfortable with us, they just start blabbing, and we love that. We love it. We encourage it. But sometimes they'll, in hindsight, they'll go, maybe I said too much or whatever. But I'm putting words in their mouth, so I'm not saying that this has happened.
Yeah.
But on the rare occasion where one of us has, you know, some second thoughts about something, we sort of look at it and go, okay, how damaging is it? And did we say it, or did some third party say it? And then the other thing you have to think about besides your own ethics is, unfortunately, you have to think about the credibility of your show. You don't want to be known as a show that censors itself and only speaks good sugar candy coated stuff and all that stuff, because people want to hear the truth sometimes. So it's a fine balance. And I'll share one quick story and then we'll move on. This is great because I remember one time I interviewed Joey Ramone, and Joey Ramone and the Ramones are like top shelf heroes of mine. And this was at a time that he was putting out an album with his brother, Mickey Lee, and it was called Sibling Rivalry. And I think it was just an EP, and it was cover tunes. And so they were working together for the first time ever. And so the spin on it was the EP was called Sibling Rivalry. So I had the bright idea to interview Joey and then go interview his brother and sort of combine the two brothers speaking on behalf of this record that they're putting out called Sibling Rivalry. So it's kind of back into their childhood, growing up together, you know, being brothers, blah, blah, blah. Well, as we all know, Joey, of course, became famous, and Mickey didn't become as well known. He's well known in the New York area, and he's well known in the underground, but he's not as internationally known as Joey. So anyway, some of the stuff that came out, I got the call from the publicist, and the publicist I was on really good terms with, and I said, "Look, these guys knew they were talking to a journalist. They knew what my intent was. They knew that everything they said was fair game, and I'm sticking to my guns." And oh shit, man. It's like, so I'm sitting at my desk one day and my phone rings on my desk and it's Joey Ramone. He called me and he's pissed because as a courtesy, I sent a rough draft to the publicist so she could share it with them. But I told her, I said, I'm not changing a thing. I'm doing this as a courtesy so they can be prepared for whatever might upset them when it comes out. And you remember, these are my heroes, so I'm sticking to my journalistic guns, and it's eating me up for weeks. I'm not even sleeping at night. Joey calls me up. He's pissed off, tells me he's going to come to Texas and kick my ass. And I hung up the phone, and I was absolutely crushed, just crushed, knowing that he felt that bad. He was that upset with me. Well, the article came out. It got picked up by the AP, the Associated Press, went out all over the place. And a couple days go by, and my phone rings again at my desk. I'm at my day job. The phone rings. It's Joey Ramone. And I hear that New York accent, and I'm like, oh, shit. I'm thinking he's just going to chew me a new one. And he goes, look, man,
another new one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, look, man, I just want you to know, I read the article. And you didn't say anything wrong. It's actually a pretty good article. I had some time to think about it. And you told everything the truth. And, you know, this and that. I'm doing a horrible Joey Ramone.
I was going to say, that was actually fucking good.
I thought it was great, especially compared to my Atlas one.
But anyway, I hung up the phone when we got done, and I was just like, I almost just fell to my knees. I was so overjoyed that I did what I thought was right, because I knew in my heart that what was said was not anything malicious or
Right.
It was just maybe not what somebody would have preferred, but it wasn't malicious or harmful or bad. And I stuck to my guns in the face of my hero who chewed me an asshole and then called me back to tell me I did the right thing and he loved the article. And I will.
You're like, I can retire now.
Exactly. So,
I don't think I.
All right, so you have to
I don't
send
think
me
I
the
knew
article,
that story.
please.
Yeah. You need. Send it to me too.
yeah,
I don't think I knew that.
Oh yeah. It's on my website. I'll send you the link. I don't know if the whole article is on the website, but a summation of what happened is I've told that story so many times.
You know, I think that you've referenced, the time I pissed off Joey Ramone, and I went, wait, what? And then because we had to move on, you said it in
it's
passing.
usually a party starter,
right?
Man. You say with the time as soon as I say that time I pissed off Joey Ramone, I've got everybody's attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's
Anyway, that's my. So
yes.
I wanted to get back to Katherine because we haven't talked about your book, Louder Than Hell.
Yes.
So I wanted to know, first of all, the title "Louder Than Hell", was it inspired by the Manowar album or the Motley Crue song?
Sadly, neither. And I believe I think there might be a Sam Kinison live album as well. Maybe I could be making that up, but no, we actually didn't even really think about that. I can't remember. So my co-writer is John Wiederhorn.
Yes.
Or I'm his co-writer.
Yeah.
And I can't. You know what? It's so terrible. I don't even fully remember how. I think we were just throwing around phrases, and we like you guys probably, or you definitely, Jason, came up with band names once upon a time.
I was going to say it's the same thing, or song titles.
Yes,
it's the same game.
Exactly. So, I don't even. It was neither of those. And now, I was bummed out when I would Google and Motley Crue would come up. I'm like, no. But so that was kind of somewhat random. And then, we have a very long subtitle to explain what it is. But I mean, I think John and I, the funny thing is let me back up very briefly to what we were talking about with ethics and all that. So, it's a huge book. We turn it in. It was published by HarperCollins. They have lawyers. Yeah. And so the lawyers read the book and they came back to us with maybe 30 questionable things like we're talking about. And there are things where, do you have this on tape? Yes, in every case. Can you, and they just asked us a lot of things. And one of them was a Don Dokken quote about a gross sexual thing. I'm like, yeah, he said that. And I know you can't get it out of your head, but he said it. Then I think I know. I'll tell you what page it's on. But and a couple where a band member really, said something crappy about another band member. Maybe it was like, yeah, he was, nodding out on drugs and he couldn't get on stage, or, things like that you really have to make sure you're not, I guess, libeling someone. So that really gave us, considering it's over 700 pages, there weren't really that many. And I really think we only cut a few, and there might have been one or two that we cut because we're like, we don't want to hurt that person's mother or whatever it was.
Of course.
So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. Like when you have the attorneys involved, then you really have to think about it.
Right. So as you mentioned, it's 768 pages, I think I saw. And out of all of those, and so just so people are aware, it's basically a bunch of interviews that I assume you and John conducted these interviews over the years. John Wiederhorn, for people who don't know, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's was an editor or a writer for Guitar World magazine, or isn't he in the guitar realm?
Yes, he did a lot of guitar things. It might have been just guitar, maybe not World. There was Guitar World, so many guitars. But yes, he was a guitar guy, and he was at Revolver, and he was at Headbangers Ball, I believe, at MTV, and also a prolific freelancer. And we met when he was a journalist for RIP, and I was his editor, and he was on the East Coast, and I was in LA, and so we never met in person. I don't remember the first time we met, but when I moved to New York, I met him in the flesh. And the book, yes, it's an oral history, which means it's quotes from the people telling the story. It's not really got much of our own, exposition, feelings, description in it.
Right. So it's basically 768 pages of quotes from various, and the title, the subtitle, as you said, is the oral history of the definitive oral
I think
history.
the word definitive.
Yeah, the definitive oral history of metal. There it is. Okay, that is.
Yes.
So
right.
So hence the subtitle, because it's basically the artist telling the story of heavy metal, in their own words. So
yes,
in those 768 pages, when you're compiling this or doing, again, the question, was there any revelations? Were you surprised to learn something or hear something from a particular artist, or did somebody's viewpoint on something impress you? You weren't expecting that, or did anybody stand out?
I mean, you asked, John and I did the interview. So I can't remember. I think there's over 300 interviews in the book. And so we compiled both of our old archival interviews. Then we did a whole bunch of new interviews. And then for a few people that we couldn't get, either because they were dead or they wouldn't speak to us. I think the one person we weren't able to get was Richie Blackmore, because he talks only about his medieval music he makes with his wife these days.
Right.
And again, I don't know. We can argue whether he's metal. He's metal. Forget that. But I mean, we had questions, John and I internally. Do we include Deep Purple? Do we include Van Halen?
It's almost a subtopic, right?
Yes.
Who falls under the umbrella proper as metal, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, wow.
Exactly. So I don't know, revelations. Let's see, and most of them, of course, John and I did them separately. Once in a while, we would do an interview together. We did one with Philip Anselmo together. Of course, we both interviewed him before, but I think he might have actually been, I think he peed during our interview because you can hear the toilet flush on the tape. And he always referred to me as, we could probably all do a good Philip Anselmo. Little lady, hey, little lady.
Hey, little lady.
Yeah. Let me tell you what it's like here, darlings.
Hey, that's pretty good. That's a good Phil.
Yeah. So in terms of revelations, I mean, yes, some of the decadence I wrote pretty much the whole, I hate to call it hair metal chapter, but the whole kind of Sunset Strip thing. John and I sometimes kind of owned our own chapters. Most of it was collaboration, but since I lived in LA and he did a lot of the hardcore East Coast stuff because that was more his scene.
Is there a Louder Than Hell board game coming out?
I don't know, but
let's hope so.
Wouldn't that be
I
badass?
would love that.
Yeah, because all of the quotes and shit that everyone's saying and all the, let me tell you something, little lady.
Yes.
That would, what did Philip Anselmo call Catherine during the interview? And it would be multiple choice,
Oh my God. Yes.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Who pushed a girl out of the door of a van? There would be
sell the book. It would, it would come with a copy of the book that all the players would have to read before they played the book, unless they were that much of a historian already.
I cannot believe we didn't think of this.
Well,
we're here to help.
I'll give you my routing number as soon as you.
Why you give it on the air here? Yes.
Right.
Wait, that's so funny. I love that idea. So yeah, in terms of revelations, I don't know. I think what the funny thing was, I also am, I guess, more into 60s and 70s and earlier stuff. So I did a lot of we call the first part of the book proto-metal. And I love doing that. And when John and I first started the book, we actually had no idea how to write a book or do anything. And so literally the first few interviews, I asked people what is heavy metal?
Yes.
I just didn't know how to begin. And then I think it was Leslie West of Mountain who said, he said, it's like porn, I don't know how to describe it, but I know it when I see it. Okay.
Wow.
Yes, that's pretty good. Heavy metal, I know it when I hear it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, I mean, what I enjoyed was how a lot of bands talked about other bands, not in a bad way, but I think also it was, I interviewed 2 members of Mountain. I think Corky Lang, the drummer, was the other one. And he told me about touring with Black Sabbath. And he told me how, I can't remember, what is Tony Iommi's false finger made out of? I can't remember.
yeah.
It was leather at one point.
Yeah, I said, he's like, Tony's finger rolled under the amp, and we were all on our hands and knees with our butts in the air looking for his finger so they could go on. And so I liked all that. I liked so many of the fun.
Tony could write a book about his fingers.
His finger could write the book.
Yeah.
One typing.
That's
There
in the
we go.
movie. About how when Tony takes his fingers off and he sets them on the nightstand, how they have a life of their own, and they walk around like Thing, and it's a horror movie.
Okay, but Alice Cooper is going to produce that movie, I think, right?
There we go.
He could star in it.
There we go.
This is
There
so,
you go.
what a collaboration. So, yeah, I think, those were kind of the stories I enjoyed the most. And, some of the decadent sex stories, a couple people who, I won't say reviewed, but, on Amazon, you get all the comments. And I read most of them. I don't know how you feel about that, Jason, if you read all your reviews.
I try not to. The comments,
Yeah.
I look for the turn off comments button just so everyone knows, because
Right.
it's like, you can tell me how great everything is, or then you can tell me something that I really don't feel like I ever want to try to unsee, that kind of a vibe. So
Right.
it's kind of ugly.
So what kind of comments were you seeing on your book?
Yeah, about
But I actually appreciated them because I agreed with most of them.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, one of them said, you don't have enough Doro Pesh in the book. I'm like, okay, you're right if you're a Doro Pesh fan, but she didn't have that much to say, and we did interview her, and oh well.
Yeah.
And then the ones that hurt would be when they would say, like, they call this definitive, it's hardly definitive, blah blah blah. But I mean, a lot of times people just are, and Jason, I'm sure it's the same for you or Dave. Whenever you write, they're just coming from their own personal biases. So if they think, unless there's a mistake, which there are a few in the book, when they say there's too much of Scott Ian and not enough of Blackie Lawless, that's their biases for the most part. So I'm like,
well, and from a third party, or not even you, just getting it outside of the room, that could be a really great thing. And it also, you go back inside the room again real quick, and it could have been that the people that have too much, that was that was a great interview. And maybe the ones
Yes.
that the information that was there, that was a smaller explosion, not so great an interview in comparison as to someone's
Exactly.
bias. And whose fault
Yes.
is that? Because it is oral history. It's not your words, it's their words. So, yeah, I get that. Another reason why comments can ruin your day, because someone is just telling you your business. It's like, wait, what? So,
yeah, well, music by its nature, we all know this is subjective.
that's
and
right.
You're never going to,
And-
if you set out to write a book, you could write a book, you could start today and keep writing to the day you died, and you're going to leave something is going to be left out that somebody thought needed to be in there. So
well,
you're never going to get it right.
and the mistakes, she mentioned the mistakes. It's like, life is sloppy, man. It's...
Yeah, I get mistakes. You do your best to avoid them, but I can understand, like Katherine was saying, you do get upset when someone catches a factual error. That makes you go, damn it. But when somebody's pissed off because there's not enough Blackie Lawless versus Scott Ian, you just got to go, hey, man.
Yeah.
Scott Ian was a better interview, or Blackie only gave me 10 minutes. So, whatever the case may be. So, I told you we wouldn't keep you too long, but this is such a great conversation. I wanted to know, number one, is there another book in your future? And number two, who's left on your bucket list for interviews since you've talked to
Well,
everybody basically?
I'll tell you an interview that I lost this week, and you will laugh and shame me, as will all of your viewers and listeners. But
All two
Great.
of them?
Good. This is good already.
I lost out on an interview with Sean Cassidy.
Oh, hey, we do have some Sean Cassidy fans.
So, he did To Do Run Run, Hey Deanie. Maybe you don't know those songs, but he was like David Cassidy's older brother, was the I guess more of the big pop star icon. But then I grew up watching the Hardy Boys Mysteries, and Sean starred in that.
Yeah.
And he's coming to town, and I was, and my editor's like, he's yours. I'm like, yeah. And then someone swooped in and got it. I mean, that's kind of a funny one, but I was really looking forward. But I will say, I've actually been trying for the few bucket list people who are still alive. And the other one, I mean, I know people think of me as a metal person, but I am, I've always been very interested in lots of genres, and over the last 20 years, I've also been writing about tons of different genres. So the other person is Cat Stevens.
Wow.
I really love Cat Stevens on a spiritual and a songwriting level. He just seems like someone I'd love to talk to. He's got a new book coming out.
Wow.
So that hasn't happened yet. So, I mean, those are odd ones, Sean Cassidy and Cat Stevens, but and much as I love Bob Dylan, I don't think I want to go there. So that's not a bucket list.
Have you ever interviewed Elton John?
No. And I love him, but
yeah, he's my guy.
That's Jason's.
He's my guy, man.
Really?
Oh my God.
Did you ever speak to Alice about like Bernie Taupin and working with him?
No, you're touching on a sensitive subject, because I love Alice like I love Elton, but when I'm in a room with Alice, just a handful of times, maybe this many, it's been very quick, and I'm not good around my loose term idols. I'm not good. Or I get in the room. I mean, same with Rob Halford. I just I freeze up. I just freak.
That surprises me.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, now I'm sensitive too, so it's kind of like, wow, I'm tongue-tied.
I mean, I don't know Elton, but knowing both Rob and Alice, you know how easygoing and kind both of them are. So
totally.
If you can get on it, they will not bite your head off.
They're beautiful, wonderful souls, and they would probably be like, "Oh man, come and sit down." But I still can't. It'd be really hard for me. But their bucket list, and I've been in the same room, toured with both of them, and they've walked right by, and I'm going, oh my god, oh my god. And one time it was that tour we did in '91 with Alice and Priest. I asked Rob's assistant, hey, can I stand on the side of the stage and just basically I got the go ahead to, just come on at certain time. And he said, you can just hang out right there in his little pipe and drape where he changes jackets and drinks tea and whatever. And so I got to hang out right there, and just I didn't say anything. I think I waved at him. I was just like, it was the most awesome 5 minutes of my whole life.
Oh,
but
that is so cool.
No words or anything. And, it's like freak out. So, Dave's asking all these great questions,
we should ask Dave who his bucket list is, shouldn't we?
I'll let me jump in before he answers, because, dude, he has interviewed some of the legendary passed on Ozzy, David Lee Roth, Bowie. He's talked to all these incredible fucking people, and it's just Dave, my buddy Dave. He's talked to all these bad motherfuckers, and it's like there's just Dave.
I think Bowie would have been a bucket list for me. I think. What was that like?
Well, it was a phoner, of course. But it was, obviously it was amazing. Just his stature alone was, the thing I remember about talking to David Bowie is he knew that I was based out of Austin. So the thing I'll never forget was he said, oh, you're in Austin. there's great guitar players in Austin, Charlie Sexton, and I mean, he named Charlie. Charlie ended up playing with Bowie and touring with him, I think.
Wow.
And Stevie Ray Vaughan was on the
yeah,
record.
Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie was from Dallas originally, but he made his reputation basically in Austin.
Well, if he worked with Stevie, then he definitely knew Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie's played with him. Yeah.
Charlie and Stevie they came up together.
Yeah,
quite a difference in age, but they came up together. Yeah.
Doyle Bramhall. I mean, so my point is that Bowie was as soon as he knew I was in Austin, he immediately knew that that's where all these great guitar players, and he named 3 or 4 of them, and I thought to myself, wow.
And
that's
trying to make you, he's trying to make you comfortable too.
Yeah, see, I love that when somebody turns the table, and Catherine, you probably understand this. When you walk into an interview, you kind of do it thinking, okay, I kind of have to take the wheel here and sort of steer the conversation and this and that. But 2 or 3 questions into it, when that person starts just, relating to you like somebody at happy hour, oh my God, that's the best,
I know.
There's like this instant rapport, and that's when it's golden,
I agree completely. And also, I don't know how often this has happened with you, when you get to do an in-person with someone, if you're at a bar or drinking or hanging out, that's also very interesting. I did that with Ronnie James Dio, and we were drinking in front of a fireplace at this bar, and then we were having such a great time. All of a sudden, he's like, I think my meter has run out, and he ran outside and he'd gotten a ticket.
Oh shit!
But yeah, I mean, the in-person, and if you're able to have an somewhat unlimited amount of time, and that's just heaven. It so rarely happens these days.
Yeah. It's a different art form now.
Have you guys seen the? And I want to say it's just on YouTube, but it's like little kids interviewing Tom Araya or James Hetfield. Have you seen that? It's like these 10-year-olds with a piece of paper, and they're wearing like battle jackets and shit, and they're sitting on the couch, and one of them's with Tom Araya, and one of them's with 2 different kids, probably years apart. Have you seen that? Have you seen that stuff?
I've seen some of it. Yeah,
it's adorable.
Pretty
and
funny.
It's kind of awesome. And you know what? It's really great. Especially Tom Araya. I mean, I love James Hetfield more than anyone in the world, maybe as much as Elton probably. And here's the deal. The thing with Tom Araya, because it's fucking Slayer, and the content is so hardcore, that the little kid is asking these questions, and Tom's like going, yeah, we write songs about, we like to scare people. And he's like being so real to this little kid who's just eating it up like candy, like, wow, yeah, cool. Yeah. You like to scare people, and it's like, wait, what? It's the most incredible, those kind of interviews. It's how 2 adults should probably be, take all of there's no need to like find someone's level, in my opinion. Of course you have to until, toe in the water, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But it should be just all the inhibitions go away when something magical like that just happens. They turn the right light switch goes off,
right?
And you're like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, so, that's when it's golden. That's what I was.
Well, it's what you guys are talking about. It just made me think about those interviews that could have been really weird. It's like, some asshole artist would have been like, what does this little kid know about do they know about my new record? And da-da-da-da. It's like, hey, asshole.
He's 10.
Yeah, he's 10. It doesn't, I bet he knows more about your new album than you do.
Right. So. I think, let's see, I don't know if I had a kid, I don't think I would have him interview Glenn Danzig or David Lee Roth.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
I just think David Lee Roth would be like too overwhelming. The kid might, and I don't know.
Right.
I get that.
And then I think when I interviewed David Lee Roth, which was just once over the phone, well, here's something you guys will both be able to talk about. Sometimes publicists will say, here are the topics you can't talk about. And I was speaking to David Lee Roth for his solo work, and they're like, "You can't talk about Van Halen." I'm like, I had to say, okay. And then within 3 minutes, he brings it up, and, we're off to the races. But he was also a person who was, and this doesn't happen too often, but when you talked about kids, that reminded me, he's like giving me his whole history. He's like, we did a record where we covered a Kinks song and with Ted Templeman. I'm like, I didn't want to say, yeah, I know all that. But I mean, he was like talking to me like I hadn't heard of Van Halen or him, which was kind of helpful, I guess he thought he was being, but it was also weird. And I think Glenn Danzig would actually be scary, not Tom. I think Glenn Danzig would be scarier than Tom Araya.
I believe that. Somehow. Yeah.
Danzig is, people,
he's not fuzzy.
No.
People ask all the time, and I'm sure you get this all the time too, Catherine, who was the best interview, who was the worst interview, blah, blah, blah. And I have to say, I think 99.9% of the interviews have been great, no problems. Some are better than others, but none of them were just total bombs. But I remember interviewing Danzig one time when I was in college, and he was touring in support of his third record. And he was, I don't know if he was having a bad day or what, but he just sounded so disinterested. And I take a lot of pride in trying to come up with questions that aren't run of the mill, because I try to get a little deeper so that the artist is kind of like, okay, here's somebody that knows their shit and done their homework. And he just sounded like he couldn't be bothered. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, I'm a journalist at a college newspaper. You agreed to do an interview with a college newspaper. You obviously need all the publicity you can get if you're talking to me. So, I mean, it's like, I couldn't, I was like, what, wait a minute. I was just baffled. And I'm a huge Danzig fan. I love his work, and I've interviewed him since, and he was great. I don't know if it was just a bad day or whatever.
Yeah, that's something that we haven't really talked about yet. Some days,
days are just bad days.
You might not get anything out of someone, I would imagine. So
yeah. So, second book. Is there a second book on the horizon, or?
No, but there's a board game, I think.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I mean, I will say, since Let in Hell came out, John has done a lot of, he's worked with a lot of artists on their books. He did Al Jorgensen and Scott Ian and a couple others. But only recently have we started talking, should there be a Louder Than Hell 2? Because our book ends in like 2014, I think. So we've been talking about that. And for me personally, I would love to do a book, but what's it going to be on? You guys could give me some ideas. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because almost, I mean, I don't have like, I'm trying to think of the more esoteric books, some of the 10 albums that shaped rock and roll. I mean, I don't have any huge grandiose ideas like that haven't already been done.
Yeah, Martin Popoff, we had him on, and he's done like a million trillion things, and he's not done. So it's like, what?
I'm done.
Where do you? What can
one and done?
Yeah. But no, I think that you've got. I think that you've got one in you.
Well, I will say, I do. I think I'm a true journalist where I like basing what I write on interviews and things like that. Like to kind of come up with a topic off the top of my head, and then, like I said, write about a bunch of albums. I really like doing interviews and shaping that into something. So, I don't know. A friend of mine, whose name is also Catherine, she wrote a book about women in rock, which was kind of cool. And that each chapter was a different woman. So I think just for my own sanity, I would want to write something where each chapter is kind of a standalone rather than a 300-page thing where I'm writing a whole narrative. That just seems daunting to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think I need to have it in manageable pieces. And I don't, and there's, even though some journalists have done, autobiographies and things, I'm not famous enough and there isn't interest. I mean, like a Cameron Crowe you want to read or something, or maybe someone from Cream. But yeah, so I don't know what's next, but I'm up for it. I mean, I love Los Angeles growing up here, but I've thought of ideas.
Do you think that that's too much to just take on, my life as a Los Angelonian and talk about your time?
I think we're Los Angelinos.
There you
right,
go.
right. You knew what I meant.
But I'll be
says the dumb Texan.
Angelonian.
Yeah. but understand
That's the
that
Texan version.
there might be an angle there as, just a California rocker kid growing up, going to concerts, living through the sunset, eyes of the sunset strip, eyes of the strip. Yeah.
I think there are a few books like that out there. I haven't read them, but I've seen a few.
That's a cool angle.
I kind of pitched an idea that I thought would enable me to do this really well. And it was kind of through the eyes of LA radio, like in the 60s, how you had like top 40. When I grew up in the late 60s, there was, Three Dog Night and BTO and then Donna Summer. And it was just, and then if you go through all the classic rock radios, and then we had K-Rock, which is a huge alternative. There's that way you can write about the bands, the radio station, the history. But
what's his name? I'm going to say it wrong. Rodney Bingenheimer
Rodney Bingenheimer.
Yeah,
yes.
I said it right. Wow. Yeah. I think that there's just to add to what you're talking about, that's a chapter or three,
Yeah. Did you see the movie, The Mayor of Sunset Strip?
I did. And it was done pretty well.
Heartbreaking, sort of, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually was, when the Toys were out there recording, he just showed up in a couple of places. He was still going out. Yeah, in 88, I think, 87 and 88. Okay. He was still going out. I would see him, once in a while. Or it was a doppelganger. Rodney Bingenheimer's doppelganger. Say that fast 3 times.
You said all that just fine, but you couldn't say Angelina. I'm puzzled.
Right,
whatever, I was riffing.
There were a few, I will say there were a few like Me Too allegations against Rodney, but I don't think any of them went anywhere. Just because he was, even in his documentary movie, he's always got kind of younger women around him. But hopefully nothing ever happened. Who knows? Another person I have to say like that, whose allegations I think are against him probably are true, but I'm also fascinated with is Kim Fowley, if you know who he is.
Of course.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. He wrote his book, which I have here. It's called The Lord of Garbage, which I love because that's who he was.
He could pen a phrase.
Yeah, so I love those controversial. Also, because I'm kind of obsessed with Rodney had a club in the 70s, I guess, called the English Disco.
Yeah.
And Kim was part of that. And that was the whole, whenever glam was around, not Sunset Strip glam, T-Rex and Bowie.
Original glam. Like
Sweet and Slade glam.
Real glam. Real Sweet and Slade, right. Real glam.
Yeah, so I love that era. And I wish I'd been old enough. Well, I guess I could have been there at 12.
Elton and Queen were part of that.
Yes. So that's one of my favorite genres. I wouldn't mind somehow writing about that, but I don't know if there's a wide, of course, if you put Elton and Queen in it, there's a wide interest, but if you put the sweet and lesser than the sweet, then I don't know. I like stars and I like, all that stuff. So
sometimes that's the kicker, though, is to go for the lesser known because it hasn't been done to death, Right. But you're right. It's more of an uphill sell, but the other side of the coin is maybe there's some advantage to it because if it's well done, because it hasn't been done to death,
That's true. And maybe, I'm looking behind you, you'd have Kiss in there just to, they talk about that in terms of jokes and glam.
Well, there's New York and there's LA. There's stars. Yeah. There's probably a bunch of bands that we're not even recalling at the moment.
Yes.
That were up there in the upper eastern seaboard, and as well as all the coasts that were probably influenced by Sweet Slade, Queen, early Elton, the Tubes, early
Yes.
tubes,
Yes,
because they
yes,
were
yes.
considered part of that scene too. And aren't
I
they?
guess
They're Bay Area, right?
I didn't think about that.
Early
but
tubes are this wacky band, and they wore like
Yeah.
platform go-go boots and crazy costumes and shit.
Yeah.
I wish I'd seen that. I know Alice and C. Waybill are friendly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That
I
surprises
know,
me
right?
not.
That's the tour we need.
No
We need.
surprises there at all.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Hey,
I know.
have you ever read the book? You know Doug. I always get his name.
Doug Road.
Yeah. Have you read They Just Seem a Little Weird?
Hi, Doug. I feel bad. I don't think I have, but
Okay.
when he was writing it, I don't know if we were in touch or not. I've met him in person a few times. I actually interviewed him for a reading he did for his most recent book, which is on Anton LaVey.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Born with a Tail.
Yes, Born with a Tail. Yes, we did I interviewed him at an event here.
Isn't that a
but I
Super
mean,
Suckers?
also-
Isn't that a Super Suckers song?
Yeah, it is.
Born with a
Oh my
Tail?
God.
Yeah.
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 Isn't it funny?
But,
I just want to comment, in Texas, where it's hot as fuck all the time, there's no seasons here. It's just hot as fuck all the time. There's black houses everywhere. I live in a small town outside of Austin. There's these new developments everywhere, tons of black houses.
Wow.
Yeah. And I always go,
Speaking of,
Anton LaVey, Anton
Oh, there
LaVey,
you go.
Anton LaVey, Church of Satan,
Right.
Church of Satan,
That's
could it be
yes.
Satan? Everywhere. It's black houses everywhere. It's
Well-
it's pretty funny.
I bring up Doug's book because you mentioned stars, and
Yes.
and that is a really interesting book because the book focuses. It's called They Just Seem a Little Weird. Obviously, a Cheap Trick lyric, and the book focuses on Kiss, Aerosmith, Cheap Trick, and Stars. And so three of the bands made it huge, and one of them was totally underground and never really rose beyond cult status. And there's a reason for that in the book. But what the point he's making in the book that's really interesting is back in the 70s, how intertwined the industry was as far as, this band shared that manager and this record label knew that program director. And that's how they all started. It was very incestuous, and Stars was all wrapped up in that. They had all the ingredients of the three bands that made it, but they didn't.
See, I
And
feel like Legs Diamond needs to be in there somewhere. Like Legs Diamond is another one of those bands. Even though they had like a Deep Purple angle because they had the keyboards and the heavy guitar.
yeah,
Were they're LA based, right?
Yes.
Or not?
yeah,
Yeah, because
That's an LA band. Yeah.
I remember them sort of back in the day.
Yeah.
Wait, so Dave, quickly, what was the reason why Stars didn't
sorry.
make?
Yeah.
Well, basically, one of the band members got into a physical altercation with one of the Moneybags guys, and I don't want to ruin it,
Right.
but
Okay.
basically there was a physical altercation involving one of the members of Stars with one of the high rollers who had the purse strings, and that was basically at the end of their career. They kind of got blackballed because of that incident. And as we all know, I mean, Stars had the songs, they had a look, they had the same, they were running in the same circles business wise as Kiss, Aerosmith, and Cheap Trick. I mean, and this is the 70s. That's about as good as it gets. So what happened, guys?
I have only seen Latter Day Stars a few. Actually, this is funny, and it pertains to this whole thing too. When I was living in New York, I went to the Iridium, which is weirdly kind of it was Les Paul's jazz club. But like in the last 8 years, I saw Angel and Stars there.
Yeah, okay.
So Angel would of course have to be. Though I mean, I don't put Sweet and Angel in the same category, but I think they.
I mean, Angel was on Casablanca Records, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yes, they were.
I think
I saw
And-
Angel in '77.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Where was that?
They were in Corpus Christi, Texas, on the Gulf. That's where I'm from. So my first concert was Rush and UFO, and that same year I saw Angel open for Ted Nugent,
Oh my God.
and I saw
That's a nightmare. Ted and
Yeah.
Angel, I can.
an Angel. Right? It's like, wait, what?
Wow.
Of course, back
I
then
know.
rock and roll was rock and roll. There was no boxes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. What was your first concert, Catherine?
All right. Well, it was one of two, and I'm 99.9. We're using that a lot. % sure that it was Queen at the Forum. I know it was.
Wow.
I mean, the first. I mean, what was the record before News of the World? Night at the Opera. Day at the Races.
Day at the Races.
I was in junior high, so it was in the.
Or was it sheer heart attack?
Oh.
No,
question.
I think Sheer Heart Attack was before the White Album and the Black Album. I think you're right. Day at the
Someone
Races.
watching this is going to yell at us for not
That's
knowing
okay.
this,
That's
but,
we can turn off the comments.
Thank you. Yeah, screw you people. No, so yes, I was in junior high, and I got, my friend's parents, our mom, I think, drove us, and so I saw Freddie Mercury. That blew my mind. And then weirdly also, and I was just reminded of this like 2 months ago. I used to ride horses a lot and do all that stuff, and we had driven down to Palm Desert for some horse event. And I think I wasn't driving yet, so our older friends were driving. I was 14 or 15. We went to see Donovan at a high school auditorium.
Wow.
Isn't that random? And I also love Donovan. And of course, he has the Alice Cooper connection.
Yes,
and
for sure. $1 Billion Babies. Wow.
Yes.
I mean, who, there's been Alice's collaboration list is bigger than people think. There's been a few people that he's collaborated with, to Chris Cornell to fucking Donovan.
Yes.
So.
Well, I mean, I will say I'm going to ask you that question, Dave, too. But first, I just want to say you guys have given me 2 book ideas.
And a board game.
Yes, and a board game. What's next? You're going to find me a husband while we're here? One of the things when you talked about stars, I mean, this would be kind of a negative book, though. I think it's what VH1 used to do when they had the behind the music. There was always the price of fame moment where everything went wrong.
Yeah.
So you could kind of do why stars didn't make it. Why, why, did that video kill Billy Squier?
So Rock Me Tonight.
So where he's rolling around in the satin. Were there moments that,
No, that's a great idea because
isn't that interesting?
Yeah, those moments obviously exist, and to my knowledge, they haven't been compiled into a single.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
Well, what's interesting to me is the idea that people literally think that, oh, Billy Squier, he's dead. This video fucking killed him. It's like, wait, what? Really? It's like, you made a cheesy video. Bands make cheesy videos all the time. I mean, how many cheesy videos has Kiss made?
Yeah.
Didn't kill Kiss.
Yeah. So, I mean, Animalize. I mean, that era. But no, I really believe. I mean, I won't say I really believe.
All you have to say is Animalize. That's all you have to say.
Tears are falling.
Tears are falling. Tears are falling. I'm in the corner staring at my TV going, is my TV broken right now?
Oh, yes. Yeah. But that said, now I have to look into Billy Squier because, I mean, I think that video, I mean, the popular, belief is that video did kill his career.
That's what they say, yeah.
But did it or not? So now we need to know.
But you guys are saying that's what they say. Who the fuck are they?
Yes.
And why do the rest of the cows believe it? We're just sheep, and we're just going to believe all this.
I think it's easy to point to because it did kind of shock and alienate people. But the bigger thing is he basically kind of disappeared from the mainstream radar after
exactly.
That's what it is. So whether or not
I'm saying he didn't have to. I'm still a Billy Squier fan.
As far as I know, he still had a fine career after that. He probably went out and toured and maybe produced some other artists or whatever.
This is just me being guilty pleasure, having journalists in the room. And what do you think about the notion? Because I think it's true. I don't think that it's credited fine print on the album, but The Stroke. Huge hit, Billy Squier.
Yes.
Did Freddie Mercury sing on that record, on that single? Because that melody, that's right off Queen the Game. That melody is right off
Wow.
Queen.
I think you're a sinner, but now you're just a, yeah. Wow.
Now that you say that, I feel like I've
Yes.
read that somewhere.
Listen, stroke man. That sounds like Freddie singing, man. Come on. That sounds.
I mean,
listen to
I
the
could
tone of
be
the
talked
voice.
into believing that, and
Listen
now that
to
you
the
mention
tone
it,
of the voice. Not credited on the record. What the hell? Anyway,
now that you
rant over.
mentioned it, now that you
No,
mentioned it,
but-
I feel like I've read that somewhere.
Okay.
okay, but now new rant and new book.
A book of rants. That's what
a
we
book of
need.
rants.
Yes.
People, uncredited musicians on albums, speaking of Kiss, like who did the, who played for Ace when he couldn't? Was it always a Kulick? Was it, and I have a friend who said that he played on a Runaways album.
Ace?
No, Ace. No, I'm sorry. I jumped around there. But,
who plays on the Runaway album?
So, when the Runaways started, they were 15, 16-year-old girls.
Yeah.
And some friends of mine worked with Kim Fowley, who was involved with them. And it was, I'll say it was like Gilby Clarke.
Wow.
I think, well, there was a band called Candy, and there was a pop band called Candy, and it was Jonathan Daniel, who now manages like Fall Out Boy, all these huge bands, and I think the singer of Candy was Kim Fowley's driver. Isn't this weird?
Wow.
You know all this, and so I think those guys were all around, and they might have played on some Runaway sessions. But I think there's a lot of secret.
Oh yeah,
and guitar playing on records that we don't know about, or even live records, right? I guess it doesn't matter, but was a Kiss audience fake or something? You hear that in the live one or two.
Yeah, it is.
We've got a friend here in Austin. Robert Wagner is the son of Dick Wagner, and Dick Wagner, of course, played. He's uncredited on Kiss Destroyer, and he played on Aerosmith, Get Your Wings, and he played.
Oh my God!
And he is credited with his work on Lou Reed,
right? And Alice.
In Alice, yeah. So,
wow.
So you talk about uncredited musicians. Now that's common knowledge, but when I was a kid and I had Kiss Destroyer on cassette, I looked. You took everything at face value. You didn't question it.
Right.
Well, I think Bob Kulick played a bunch of Ace's solos. On a live 2 on the studio tracks. I think he played
right.
so. Other than Rocket Ride, I think that like maybe Larger Than Life. I think that's Bob Kulick, maybe.
Yeah. I think I've read
little things like that.
Yeah,
might have to dig.
I know. I think
there's a whole Kiss nerd website, I'm sure, that lists all of the players that we're talking about.
Yes.
Going, who is that? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Katherine, thank you so much for your time today. This has been awesome. I was so happy to run into you finally, and when I was in LA for my birthday, it was so cool to meet you, and it's just been great, exchanging Facebook messages with you and trading stories, because we do have so much in common as far as friends and our career paths or whatever. I don't work for Alice Cooper, but hey. I'll keep trying, but maybe you could put in a good word for me. But no, regardless, we were talking about what's next for you, next book, whatever. And I'll just say, if you stopped right now today, you've done an amazing body of work. It's really incredible. All the stuff that you've done, the book, Louder Than Hell, all your years with Rip Magazine. I was telling you, I still have every issue in a box in a closet behind me. I have Hit Parader, Circus, Rip. I still have them all. And like I said, seeing your name in the magazine when I was younger was, an inspiration for me to go. One day it all went off in my head and said, somebody's getting paid to do this. I want to do this, because I'm not a musician. So I figured I'll combine my love of writing with my love of music, and somebody's getting paid to do this. So
that's exactly how I started. Thank you. And I have to say, I still love writing. I write a lot for the LA Times now, which has been awesome. And yeah, makes me really happy. I'm still out there freelancing.
Well,
Yeah.
your article in Polestar
Yes.
about David Roach.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you for including David
Both
and
of
I,
us.
as well as proper members of Junkyard, and really saluting our friend David, because, man, if he were here to see the love that he could cut with a knife, he wouldn't fucking believe it. He would not believe it.
I agree. And thank you. I mean, I had no idea, Jason, that you went back to high school with him, and that was amazing.
Art
And I
class.
say, oh God.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just, and interestingly, I saw Junkyard from the beginning when they were out here, but I never was close to David or knew him well or anything, but I knew the whole band.
Yeah.
And it just has really affected me a lot. It's really, I don't know. I mean, he was just, again, as you guys said, like so powerful as a person performer, but so humble as a person. And I heard from someone in the band, Tim Mosher, about how they really appreciated it. And that was like, that's kind of why we do it, not from love from the band, but to find out that you captured something well, and it meant a lot to the people involved. And
well, it's
hard.
it's a version of the Pony Express. It's like your reach is letting other people know how huge his was, and that is important. It's very important. It's important to me. It's important to people who know the lyrics and will always know the lyrics that he wrote, and that means something to him. So
it's been really devastating to so many people that I know. And then, I have to say, when I was writing it, and I would have anyway, but I went to the I guess the funeral home, and you read the condolence book, and so everyone was a fan with a very specific story of how great he was, and the picture of their arms around each other. And I mean, it wasn't just like rest in peace, good guy. Everything was specific and beautiful, and really,
it says a lot about the man.
Yeah. Yes, life well lived on his own terms, and
he lived 9 lives for sure. Way faster than I have ever lived.
Right.
He's always been that way.
If people are questioning what we're talking about, Katherine wrote a great article on David Roach in Polestar magazine. You can find it on polestar.com, POLLSTAR.com. And it was a very a great fitting tribute. It conveyed a lot of emotion, which is really hard to do. Like you told us that you talked to Tim, and that conversation was heartbreaking, and you could tell just from reading the words on the page that it was an emotional conversation. So you did a great job of paying tribute to the man and capturing the heartfelt words of those around him. So anyone, check it.
Thank you. It was very hard. It took me. I thought about it. I missed my deadline. Because I didn't know quite how to get it all, and then it just kind of came out because I listened. I was just listening to music and But everyone had such specific, beautiful stories. You guys, in particular,
He's they're having a memorial gathering for him in Austin on September 13th, and the guys from Junkyard are flying out to be here for that. So I'm looking forward to catching up with them. Obviously, wish it was under better circumstances, but it's going to be really, really, really good to see those guys and be part of the send-offs.
I wish I was closer. I think there are a few unreleased songs, maybe. So I guess
we'll see.
Maybe to look forward to, but I think I'm going to see Youngblood tomorrow.
Far
you guys, the guy who he sang on the Positive, did Changes, and
Yeah.
Got to keep up with the kids,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Yeah,
how
I guess.
anyone knows who he is. That's how I know who he is. No one knew
I
who he was.
know.
You
No
know
one in
how
my
I know
circle.
who he is? Stevie Rochelle posted
yeah.
a video of him about a year ago of a video of Youngblood doing a cover of Kiss, I Was Made for Loving You.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
And he actually does a pretty
Perfect
good
choice.
job. Yeah.
I can hear
Perfect
him.
choice for him. Yeah,
I was like,
it's
who's this guy doing this Kiss song? Because Stevie posted, and I was like,
Right.
all right, I'll see what Stevie's posted. And I clicked on it. I was like, it's definitely got some disco. It's like updated disco.
Stevie's
but it's
always
cool.
had a knack for kind of discovering finding these younger rockers
Yeah.
and going, check this guy out,
Well, he turned me on to Veins of Jenna. and
Well,
they
that's
were-
what I'm trying to say.
Oh, wow.
He's always got his
they were-
ear on
And-
the tracks for that. So
and I'll blow my own horn and say I interviewed Youngblood or Dom in 2019. So
Oh.
I
Wow.
it's so rare when I hear someone or see someone and I'm like, this is it, star
Wow.
quality, everything. I heard him back then randomly and I'm like, yep. And he was an amazing interview. And, he's over the top and a lunatic, but in a
Yeah.
loving
Yeah.
way, in a David Roach
Dude,
way. He had, but he's beloved.
That's 6 years ago, though. That's wild.
Yeah, and I know he has had a hard time breaking into America, but this this might have done it. I hope. I'll let you know tomorrow night at the Hollywood Palladium. Where I'm
Nice.
sure you probably.
Oh, that's a
That-
good
that
gig.
might-
That's
that
a
might
good
be your
gig.
next book.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm
Oh,
planning-
if I don't get the Sean Cassidy one, I'm doing the young one. Oh my God. I'm very inspired now. No, I actually am. I'm not kidding. I feel kind of like energized. So thank you guys.
Well, thank you for your time today. Your story is amazing. We could go on forever.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Again, thanks for your time and thanks for your inspiration to me personally. And we'll be looking for that board game. And,
Yes.
and please give Alice our best. I know he's asking how we're doing, so
I will.
let him know
He
we're all
does.
doing
He
well
does.
here in Texas. So, on behalf of my co-host Jason McMaster, I'm Metal Dave, along with our special guest today, Katherine Turman, on the Talk Louder podcast.
Thank you guys. Totally great.